Okay, Robert Whittaker, he uh, he proposed back in 1960s. He proposed that all of the 5 group of organisms. Now it's a little bit different. We have 3 domains. Is that right? We learned that in Bio 1, the 3 domains are bacteria and archaebacteria, archaea they call it, and eukaryote. Okay, but anyhow, these are the bacteria evolved to Protista, and Protista evolved to animals, evolved to some Protista evolved to animals, some Protista evolved to plants, and some Protista evolved to fungi. And that's what Robert Whittaker proposed back in 1960s, and most scientists believe that is true now. That's what we have, and they agree with it. They agree. Okay, classification and phylogeny of animal kingdom. There is about 1.5 million species, plants, bacteria, animal, everything on planet Earth have been identified and named. And every day they're discovering new animals or new plants, and they're naming them scientifically. Okay, you all know what I'm talking about. So, with having said that, there is all and all and all and all, it's about 1.5 million species. How many more? I don't know. Based on mathematical analysis, you can guess how many more there are on planet. And Carlos Linnaeus was the first person who said, okay, this is chaotic. Let's make head or tail out of this. He was a Swedish physician, medical doctor, and of course he was into science, and he said, this is crazy, this is chaotic, let's put things in perspective. And then he proposed all living organisms on planet Earth during his time. It was not 1.5 million, I don't know, maybe during this time was 100,000, 200,000 different species known at that time. Let's give it a genus and species. He proposed binomial, it means 2 nomenclature, 2 names, genus, species. And then he based it on comparative anatomy. He compared the structure of animals or plants, and then he put them in classes. And this is what we still use this for this class. This is what we use mainly for lab practical exam questions. I will ask you what phylum, what class, what order. We don't get to family, but genus, species, we start from this exam. Last exam, you did not have any of this, but this exam you have, of course, not kingdom, but phylum, class, order, not family so much, but genus, species, definitely you have that for this coming up exam. So, easy to memorize it. King Paul came over for good sex. I hope you remember that. So now you know the order. Now you know the order. Kingdom is first, okay? And then inside of kingdom, you have several phyla. Phylum is singular, phyla is plural. And inside of a phylum, you have classes, or sometimes 2, 3 classes, 4 classes. And inside of class, you have orders, and it's just like a continent. Inside of a continent, there are countries, right? I'm making an analogy. And inside of countries, there are states or province. Am I making some sense? And inside of state, there are cities. And inside of, well, you have counties and then cities. And then inside of cities, you have blocks and neighborhoods, and then finally your house number. That would be your house. And I made an analogy. Hopefully you understand it better. You ask somebody, where do you live? I live in Asia. Where in Asia do you live? I live in Japan. I know, there are so many cities in Japan. Where in Japan do you live? Oh, I live in Tokyo. Well, yeah, I know Tokyo, but which neighborhood? Where? Oh, downtown. I'm making some sense, same thing. So it's a way of communication, okay, between you and I for the rest of semester. Anyhow, how to write a scientific name, that was the question. First word is genus and written in capital initial letter. And second word is species, it's all small, lowercase. Both words are italicized when you type them, underlined when you write them. For example, Homo sapiens, that line should not be here. I was lazy, I guess. I blocked the whole thing and pressed underline, but I should have blocked this one and then blocked that one. That line should not be there. Am I making some sense, everybody? I tried to fix it later on in my PowerPoint. But Homo sapiens, you can write it either as this or italicized as that. That's a scientific name for a human. Name of genus, species. Capital H, small s. Capital H, small s. Gorilla, gorilla. Did you know that's a scientific name for gorilla? Yes. Oh, good. Okay, so gorilla, gorilla underline and capital G, small g. That's a scientific name for gorilla. However, they mentioned that this morning some organisms, they have a subspecies right here. So they write down Trypanosoma brucei rodensiense. Of course, this is all lowercase. The subspecies is all lowercase. Trypanosoma is the name of the genus. It's capitalized. Trypanosoma brucei gambiense, Trypanosoma brucei brucei. So there are 3 subspecies of Trypanosoma brucei. Okay, in a sentence you might see something like this, Trypanosoma sp. So when they write down Trypanosoma sp, it means all 3 of them in that sentence. They're not talking about one specific one, they're talking about in a scientific paper you're reading or your textbook or some other place, when you see that one, sp after Trypanosoma underlined or italicized, it means they're talking about all 3 of them. Or maybe they're talking about Trypanosoma cruzi too, all of Trypanosoma. And then of course, if you see something like this, gorilla, gorilla, first time you must spell it. Then second time you can write down G dot gorilla or italicize G gorilla. But during exam, remember the test, we said the first time you must spell it out. So if you're going to write down Trypanosoma or Trichomonas vaginalis as T dot vaginalis, the first time you must spell it out. Other species, but anyhow, other organisms just like that. T vaginalis, you have to spell it out first time. Phylogeny is based on homology, not analogy, and I will talk about that. Classification, that sentence means classification of organisms is based on their homology, what they have similar to each other, not based on their function. Analogy, it means based on their, if the fly can fly or a mosquito can fly, you're not going to, the scientists will not put it in the same phylum as a bat. Bat can fly. Birds can fly too. Bat and birds are not being placed on the same group. That would be analogy. Okay, some of this will, evolution, will tackle it up a little bit later on. Okay, human, of course, Robert Whittaker, and I will talk about those, and Robert Whittaker already talked about Robert Whittaker. I did talk about that. Human, you know, you have kingdom. These are a little bit of old classification. There were 5 kingdoms. Nowadays, it's a little bit, it depends who you talk to. When we talk about classification, the big one, depends who you talk to. But anyhow, the Animalia, kingdom Animalia, and there are roughly, the numbers have changed, that many phyla, that many phylum, singular, phyla, plural, that many phyla in that kingdom, and the phylum we belong to is Chordata. We human belongs to phylum Chordata. And subphylum, Tetrapoda, it means 4 legs, 4 arms, do not worry about that one. Class Mammalia. We human belongs to class Mammalia. And then subclass Thera, again, do not worry about subclass and subphylum. Our order, primates, families, Homondiae, genera, Homo, the other 2 are extinct. And the last one, species, sapien, and the other 2 are extinct. I hope you are getting. So your quiz on next Tuesday, I might ask you what is the name of the order for human? Or what is the name of the class for human, or family, or genera? Genera is plural, genus is singular. Okay, genera is plural of the genus. And of course, phylum is plural of phyla is plural of phyla. Anyhow, that's a classification of human. I would like to. Protista, So first life on Earth, they were about 3.5 billion years ago, and they say the Big Bang theory, we talk about this, how many billion years ago that was? They are estimating it 17 or 13, 17, somewhere in that neighborhood, 17 billion years ago, that was a Big Bang that occurred. But the first life, bacteria, were on planet Earth about 3.5 billion years ago, with a B, billion with billion. And Protista, of course, evolved later, maybe 1 or half a billion, somewhere in that neighborhood. Protozoa subkingdom, it depends how you want to say that. Again, people are a little bit different as far as they like to talk about them differently, so on and so forth. But anyway, animal kingdom, the reason they are animal-like because they do not have cell wall. Okay? And then in some way they are motile. Some of the species are motile, they do move around. So since they do move around, we cannot classify them too much as a plant. And ingest their food. You know, plants do not ingest their food. Plants are not mobile. They are sessile, okay? Sedentary, sessile type thing. We will discuss these phyla among all of the phyla in Protista. Again, you will see that, you will see it later on. This one, we cannot discuss all of them, but I'll discuss some of them, some of the phyla in here and give you an example. But let's go with general characteristics of these guys. They are unicellular, they are microscopic, most of them, not all of them, very small. No germ layers. You all know germ layers. What is germ layer? Refresh my memory. Endoderm, ectoderm, mesoderm. They do not have that. Okay? And then specialized organelle. They have some of the species, some of them have some organelles that other group of animals do not have. And then we'll go over that. I give you some examples that only Protista have this. No other species have that, like apical complex, for example. Apical complex is a structure that only Protista have, and you don't see it in any other species. Okay. Then some of them are free living, some of them are mutualistic, and some of them are commensal. Okay, and some of them are parasitism. And you all know that you know, in biology 1, and I don't know how much of this was discussed in Bio 1. How much of this was discussed in Bio 1, but you know what the term symbiosis means, right? Symbiosis means what? Anybody wants to tell me what yes, please. Yeah, based on your prefix suffix means living together. You're right. However, what?
One benefits off of the other. Or like
one benefits than the other. Okay. Huh?
Like they can benefit off of each other, or like one can harm the other one.
Right. So if I ask you a woman which is pregnant, would a baby and the woman have a symbiotic relationship?
No.
Why not?
Two different species.
It has to be two different species. That's what symbiosis means. Two different species, they live together. Am I making some sense? And one of them, at least one of them, metabolically depends on the other one. That's a good definition of symbiosis. That's a complete definition of symbiosis. Okay, so we have 3 of them. You have the first one, doesn't matter in any way around, symbiosis. Oh, come on. Symbiosis, it means living together. So there are 4, actually 4 of them, but I only mentioned 3 of them here. One of them is parasitism. And during parasitism, one is benefit and the other one is harm, right? Malaria, the organism, tapeworm, right? The tapeworm is benefiting you, and the tapeworm is actually harming you. I'll give you some example. And then, of course, in case of parasitism, we have ectoparasites that want to take lice. They are ectoparasites. And then we have endoparasites, the one that is in the bladder. What is the other one? Huh? commensalism. One benefits and the other one is not harmed. I'm going to show it by a multiple sign. Is not harmed. And the last one is mutualism. What? One benefits, the other one is also benefit. They both benefit. Okay? Now, what do you guys think that 5 million years ago, 1 billion years ago, which one of these three are happening right now? Which one of these three happened first? And then, for example, you have a timetable like this, and why? Okay, so this is, let's say, 500 million years ago. This is 250 million years ago. And this is now. Which one happened first? Which one happened here? Which one happened here, and why? I want to give you why. Huh? Anybody? Elizabeth, you're sitting farthest away from me. That's why I keep calling you. I don't call Fabian, he's sitting very close to me. I don't need to call Fabian or Tom, right? But I give you some, and Amna, same as you two are the farthest from me, so I have to keep calling you again. Right? I will not call Alex or. Yes, what? Anybody? Human? No, okay. My question is, which one of these three happened 500 million years ago? Which one of them happened 250 million years ago? And which one of them happening now?
Mutualism.
Go ahead, somebody.
Parasitism, commensalism, mutualism.
Why, Fabian?
Why not?
That would get you an A in a philosophy class. That would, but not in here. It will not pass you. It will not pass.
Because parasitism is not sustainable. So organisms had to evolve to keep their host alive.
And what happens when the host is alive?
They are alive. The parasites.
And they are alive. In parasitism, what happens if the host dies, right? The parasite dies too. Just as simple as that. In commensalism, they learn over, it took some time, the symbiote learned to not harm the host. They learned that, okay? And then, over another period of time, they learn if they benefit the other host, the other symbiote, then that would be beneficial to the other one. Can you give me an example? You studied these ahead of time or not?
Sharks and feeder.
Can you give me an example of parasitism?
Oh, yes, tapeworm and human.
Okay, Plasmodium. It's called malaria. Malaria kills, right? And then you have an example of commensalism would be your Entamoeba coli. Entamoeba coli is a amoeba in human gut. Some of us have it, and we don't even know it. They're having a ball in there, they're having a party in there, but they're not harming us. And then the other one, mutualism, which you do, I'm using some of the stuff, some of the examples that we are going to discuss it. I'm going to discuss it in the lecture. We do not have slide of Entamoeba coli, but we have slide of Plasmodium, and we have slide of Trichonympha. Trichonympha SP. Trichonympha species in the gut of the termite. Is that right? In the gut of termite, they benefit termite. When termite eat wood, they break down the wood. Trichonympha species, they break down the wood to glucose molecules, the cellulose. They break it down to single glucose molecules. And then both the termite benefit and the Trichonympha benefit from. They both use that glucose molecule to keep going, ATP production of cell, so on and so forth. You already know what I'm talking about. Okay? So, I talked about the relationship between these three guys. Some protists are sessile, some have pseudopod, flagella, cilia, all type of nutrition, autotroph and heterotroph. Autotroph means they make their own food. Heterotroph, that's what you and I are. You and I have to go to Starbucks, I'm advertising for Starbucks again, or McDonald's, or Burger King, is that right? To obtain our food. We cannot make it. We cannot blow ourselves in front of sun and say, okay, I'm making food now. Well, you're making vitamin D, but that's just one thing you need. You need a whole bunch more besides vitamin D. Some are aquatic and some are terrestrial. Terrestrial, you know what I mean. Rim, you know what I'm talking about. Rim. Terrestrial means what? Glenn, rim, Glenn. Huh? They are on land. They live on land. Opposite of aquatic. And then, of course, asexual reproduction and sexual reproduction. You already know that. We will discuss them. They have most of the organelles that other eukaryotic cells possess. Mitochondria, endoplasmic reticulum, Golgi apparatus, vesicles, chloroplast. Some of them have chloroplast, not all of them. Vacuoles, some of them have them. Vesicles, of course, Golgi apparatus. Some of them do not have Golgi apparatus. Most of them have Golgi apparatus. We will discuss those. Endoplasmic reticulum, again, mitochondria, again, ectoplasm and endoplasm. You have not seen that before. And what ectoplasm and endoplasm are, if you would, on these models, the creamish, right? The creamish area, that would be cell membrane. And the yellow is your ectoplasm, and the orange, the blue is your ectoplasm, and the yellow is your endoplasm. And then, of course, you have cytoplasm. So they have ectoplasm, endoplasm, cell membrane, cytoplasm. Okay, and then when we talk about movement of these guys later on, you will see them. Locomotion, okay, I guess we were talking about locomotion first. 9 plus 2, you saw that in Bio 1. 9 microtubules in parameter and 2 in the center. Okay, and then of course pseudopod. These are pseudopod. Right here, that's a pseudopod. This is a pseudopod. These are pseudopod, and the way they move, amoeba move by pseudopod. Ectoplasm, transparent, and our hyaline colloid, the one that is outside, is transparent. It means it does not have too many stuff inside of it. Endoplasm, more granular and more fluid. Cilium, flagella. This is structure of 9 plus 1, cell membrane, 9 microtubules in the parameter, 2 in the center, and this is a drawing of, okay. And then, of course, this is your ectoplasm, endoplasm, amoeba. We have ectoplasm, endoplasm, mitochondria, nucleus, crystals, and then food vacuoles. They're all, and then, of course, contractile vacuole, which I will talk about that, advancing pseudopod. I will talk about all of that. Okay, excretion and osmoregulations by contractile vacuole. There are 2 types of excretion in these guys. Okay, one type, that is the first one, small vesicles join the contractile vacuole, then the contractile vacuole join the cell wall. Okay, for example, in these guys, I hope you can see these little gray dots. You guys can see that? These gray dots are vesicles, and they grab water. So what happens, back to biology 1 again, outside environment, there is more water outside of these guys than inside of them. Inside they have a lot of particles, molecules. So inside is hypertonic. Outside water is hypotonic. Based on osmosis, water molecules go from hypotonic environment to hypertonic environment. Am I making some sense? Through a membrane. So water molecules constantly going in these guys. And if they do not have a system to get rid of it, what will happen? They explode. Right? Am I making some sense? So they developed a system by these vesicles all throughout the animal. These vesicles grab the water and they move, and the movement of the vesicles in Bio 1, you learned it, you know about it. They move and they bring the, and they dump it into contractile vacuole, the big one. You guys see that? And then contractile vacuole becomes full of water. These guys move away, or they break down a little bit, so it becomes full of water, and then the contractile vacuole move or just diffuses with cell membrane and dump the water out. Am I making some sense? They call this, it's called this type of osmoregulation. Osmosis, osmoregulation. They call this type of osmoregulation a little bit primitive. So Protista that evolved first possibly had this type of osmoregulation. And then the more advanced one are ciliate. And they're also all more complicated. Again, we go back to my example of the cars of 1920s and the cars of 2014. You open up the hood, 1920s, you can see the engine, right? But 2014, 2017, this is 2017, you open up the engine, and you open up the hood. Where is the engine? There's so much gadget and dadget and stuff in there. I hope I'm making it more complex. The cars of nowadays are more complex than the cars of 1920s. Okay, same thing here. It's more complex. So what happens in these guys, in this model, I do not have the endoplasmic reticulum. The water goes in, same concept, the water constantly goes inside of the organism, and the water goes into the endoplasmic reticulum. From endoplasmic reticulum, they go to the ampulla. You see these structures right here. These are all called ampulla. And the ampulla, the water goes to contractile vacuole, and contractile vacuole squeeze itself, and you have an excretory pore and dump the water out through that excretory pore. And then this one is empty, this one is full of water. So I've seen videos, you can go to Google it, and they usually have two. One becomes full of the water, one excrete the water out, and this one becomes full of the water, this one excrete out, just like that. They become like that if you watch it. You go to Google and you can watch it. And that's what I said. Excretory pore leads into outside by the surrounding ampulla, and then ampulla fills up and discharges the water to outside. But I did not mention endoplasmic reticulum, which is right here. These are endoplasmic reticulum, lead into ampulla, and ampulla leads into contractile vacuole. Contractile vacuole have excretory pore, and these are cilia, right? And out. And then one becomes full of water, one becomes empty, one becomes full, one becomes empty. Okay? That's the osmoregulation. We will discuss osmoregulation, I guess, for the rest of the semester. What is the osmoregulation in human? What organ? Huh? Kidney. Your kidney. Your excretory system. Here is your osmoregulation. Nutrition, autotroph, heterotroph, phagocytosis when they eat. Again, autotroph, they make their own food. Heterotroph, when you eat food. Phagocytosis, cell eating. Biology 1, and they use lysosome to break down. They have lysosome. Lysosome is, they call suicide bag of the cell, nickname for it, because if they breaks open, all of the enzymes are released, the cell will die. Right, Elizabeth? No, are you guys with me? And then they have food vacuoles, exocytosis, the waste material goes out, just like this one. We have a right here. So this is showing cytoproc, which the waste material leave the cell. It's called exocytosis. And then we have exocytosis in our cells too, when we talked about hormones, so on. Cilia have cytoproc for explosion of waste, and pinocytosis means what? The cell drinking. Cell drinking is pinocytosis, when the cells are ingesting liquids. Okay, and then in biology 1 again, they talk about that in detail. Pinocytosis and phagocytosis, at least I talked about it in Bio 1 in some detail. Okay, Reproduction, fission, that's how you spell it. And you pronounce it as fission, not fusion. Two different terms, two different spelling. Okay, fission. Cell multiplication process when more individuals are produced. That's pretty much in a nutshell what a fission is. When you have, it's almost equivalent to mitosis, biology 1. Okay, mitosis. Mitosis is a cell division which you learn. Then they have different type of fission. We have binary fission. Two identical individuals are produced. That's binary fission. Budding is when progeny is smaller than the adult. Some of your slides, when you look at a paramecium, you might see a big paramecium here and a small one right here. So it came from budding. We call it budding. Yeah, it's possible. And you will see that later on with more complex animals. Well, more complex than these guys. Very simple animals, but like hydra. You will see it with hydra later on. Budding. Multiple fission, there are two types of multiple fission. One of them is sporogeny, and the other one is schizogeny. Let's have that done now, so later on, when I'm going over in malaria, when I talk about malaria or other organisms in here, so these two terms you be familiar with. And on Tuesday, I'm hoping to ask some quiz questions about the differences here. So let's, let me write it down on the board a little bit. So what that is, can I erase this? Everybody knows the evolution of these guys. So what is, what is sporogeny and what is schizogeny? Right here. So sporogeny, what happens, you do have, at the end, you have, in these guys, we do not have sperm and egg, but let's say you have equivalent to sperm, they call it microgamete. Microgamete, is that right? Most animals, most of the time, most species on planet Earth, the male gamete is small. And the female gamete is usually larger. Okay? So when they come, and they call this, of course, what? Macro gamete. And then when they come together, they do not call it a zygote. They call it an oocyst. Equivalent to zygote. So when you have an oocyst, now it has one nucleus, right? We talked about this. When they have one nucleus, and that one nucleus starts dividing either to 4 or 8 cells or 2 cells, is that right? I draw 4. That process of the division inside of the oocyst is called sporogeny. Do it make sense? Then you have, in case of schizogeny, schizoid means what? Quiz question, please. Huh? What? Schizoid means what? Split. Schizocilus? Okay, split. So schizoid means split. When you have a host cell with its nucleus and the parasitic, the parasite comes inside, the Protista comes inside, and inside the nucleus starts multiplying. Just the nucleus. No cell membrane. This is cell membrane, right? This is cell membrane. I did draw it for you guys. This is cell membrane. This is cell membrane. And the nucleus. Not in here. You see the differences between schizogeny and sporogeny? So then the cells keep multiplying and multiplying and multiplying, just the nucleus. And then after they kill the host cell, or before they kill the host cell, then they form a cell membrane around themselves. This is not what you learn in Bio 1, right? This is not what you learn in Bio 1. In Bio 1, you have cytokinesis, right? You all know what cytokinesis is. Formation of the cytoplasm. Formation of the cytoplasm. Not these guys. Not in case of schizogeny. Not in case of schizogeny. Amno, do you see that or no? Okay, so let's look at those definitions before I leave. Sporogeny, development of spores, sporozoites within the oocyst. So these are called sporozoites, 4 of them, or 8 of them, or 2 of them. It depends on the species. And then schizogeny, when the cytokinesis is preceded by several nuclear division. And I already said that. I hope I'm making some sense. So you should know that by the time we get to, here they are, I guess there are a few things I took from your textbook quickly. Types of gametes, fertilization, syngamy, fertilization of one gamete by another one, and then autogamy, gametes, nuclei formed by meiosis, fuse to form a zygote inside of the parent's organism, and conjugation, which you do have. I do have a slide of it here. Maybe today I should put it on the microscopes as a demo. I have a slide of binary fission and conjugation. Gametes, nuclei exchange between paired organisms like Paramecium, which I show you that when we get to Celiophora, when we get to the phylum Celiophora. Form and function, Encystment. You guys talked about it and you did a good job. Those of you who talked about Encystment today. So Encystment, Encystment and Encystment, unicellular forms are amazingly successful in extremely harsh conditions due to various several mechanisms. Harsh conditions is drought. When there is not enough water in a pond, the pond dries up. That's harsh condition. These guys will not disappear. They go into encystment. And then when the rain comes back, they go to encystment. And then this morning you outlined what are characteristics of each. Well, what does let's say? Encystment related to the ability to form cysts, yes, which are dormant forms, yes, that's what you mentioned this morning. And dormant forms that shut down metabolism, not completely, and have a resistant external covering secreted by Golgi apparatus. And of course, Paramecium does not go under encystment. We have Euglena. Euglena undergo encystment. Okay? And then encystment escape from the cyst when environmental conditions are favorable again. Important for parasitic forms to survive the transfer from one host to the next host. So what happens when a host, that's what we are talking about right here. When a host release in their feces, I hope I'm making some sense. In their feces, they release the cyst. The cyst is in the environment, right? The cyst is in the environment, and they might go under sporogeny, okay? And then another host comes and eat that accidentally. I don't mean species, most of them don't do that. They come and eat poop of another species, but by accident, right? By fomites. Let me grab my keys. Did you take my keys? Right? How many times I've done this? How many times this falls on the floor and I grab it, put it in my mouth. This falls on the floor. I grab it. I'm grabbing the cyst, and these are called fomites. And I put it in my mouth, voila, now I have it. Am I making some sense? But they are in the environment and they are resisting the condition of the environment. What is the optimum condition for these guys? Right here. My gut. So when they get to my gut, they flourish. Elizabeth, are you with me? Okay, anyhow. That's what I said. These are different phyla that you should know. I added, compared to last semester, I didn't put it in yet. I'll be done. I added one more species, and that's the I, and that goes to phylum Amoebozoa. I did not, and Amoeba coli, it's Acanthamoeba. I did not put it up here. But anyhow, you will see it. I added one more species that it goes to this file. The rest, it should be pretty much safe. Okay? Let's go. The first one, phylum Euglenozoa. Let me finish it up today, and after today, then you stop. After Euglenozoa, you stop. Okay. Euglenozoa is some species with light-sensitive stigma. They have chloroplast, so they have light-sensitive stigma, chloroplast. What, can you put it together for me? What is? Huh? Yeah, they locate light in order to do photosynthesis. Okay, Euglenozoa. And Euglena, we do have it in the lab, either the trophozoite stage, it means feeding stage, and the cyst stage. If you do not see the cyst because that's what I asked last semester, and everybody, Ernesto was saying, oh, Amir, where have you seen this one? I never seen it. I said, well, it's in the starlight box. And I talked about it, and I said that. Of course, you were in the back, front, asleep. So whatever I say. But anyhow. Ernesto, they all know I'm joking around with you. You got a good score. So anyhow, class trypanosoma. Do not worry about the classes for this exam. All I'm worried about that you recognize the name of the phylum and genus species. I'm not worried about class anymore. Nicole, right? But the end of semester, I hope I called everybody's name except Elizabeth and Amna equally. You cannot say, I mean, you never called my name. No, that's not true, Jonathan. I called all of your names. Okay, so anyhow, they're all parasitic in this class. Not all of the members of Euglenozoa are parasitic. No, Euglena is not parasitic. Euglena is free living. But I'm saying class Trypanosoma tibiae, all of the members are in that class, within that phylum, they are parasitic. Okay, there are two species that we do have slide, and we will talk about it, is Leishmania and Trypanosoma. Euglena, let's talk about the Euglena first. Euglena, some structures in Euglena, they have pedicle, kinetosome. Kinetosome is a structure that has DNA inside of it. We still do not know the function of it. It's at the base of the flagella. Pellicle is a membrane, is a structure in the outer layer of Euglena. Protects Euglena, made up of possible protein and cellulose and other things, which is up for grab for debate. Contractile vacuole, of course, they have stigma to locate light for photosynthesis. Thank you for being with me. Chloroplast. Paramylon bodies. Paramylon bodies are deposits of starch. When they make photosynthesis, they make glucose. When they do photosynthesis, when they make glucose, then they attach these glucose molecules together and deposit it inside of the organisms, and they call those paramylon bodies. Okay, they do not call them starch, or they do not call them glycogen. Those are the terms you're familiar with. They call them paramylon bodies. Okay? But anyhow, reproduction by binary fission, and here they are. Here is a living one, the real picture, and this is the cartoon, and shows you all of the parts that you possibly do not need to know. Again, if you refer to your handout for the microscopic slides, I do not expect you to know any of that structure. Okay, we did have a model of Euglena. I don't know. I'll try to go grab it and put it up there so you guys, I don't know what happened. I'll ask. The other one, okay, the organisms that you should worry about, we do have slide of them in the lab. Trypanosoma brucei cause death. People, I don't know if you can go to YouTube and Google it, and YouTube it, I guess, and put sleeping sickness. People walk and in the streets, and then they fall, they go to a corner, they fall asleep, and after the sleep is over, they get up and move on with their life. It's just the nervous system shuts down a little bit. It is almost same as epilepsy. People who have epilepsy, it's a bit different. You know, the signs and symptoms, people with epilepsy, they can bite their tongue, they can, you know, they can, but this does not happen in them. They do not bite their tongue, they do not harm themselves. They just fall asleep. The nervous system shuts down. These organisms has an effect. Trypanosoma, both rhodesiense, gambiense, and brucei. Brucei is in animals. Brucei is in animals. They kind of have an effect on nervous system. And now there is more research. They say yes, they have effect on other body parts, but the one that you should know for this class mainly is your nervous system. Okay, so they have effect. And of course, this is more severe. It can cause death. And then this one, death will occur, but the person lives. Drugs, I don't know there are any effective drugs for these. They can slow them down, but eventually the person will die. Okay, so those are the effects of transmitted by tsetse fly, the T silent tsetse fly. The scientific name is Glossina. We do have it in the lab at the end of semester when we get to arthropods. You will get to see that. You get to see that. Okay, but right now you should know the name of the organism, Glossina, tsetse fly. The other one, the other Trypanosoma cruzi cause Chagas disease. Chagas disease, the main effect of this parasite is on the heart. Okay, and Chagas disease is found in South and Central America, and Trypanosoma, the sleeping sickness, Trypanosoma brucei species, subspecies are found in Asia, portion of Asia, not all of Asia, and Africa. Okay, so location is another thing for this class. You should know those locations. Oh, I mean, I didn't know I have to know location. Yes, you do. Okay, so Trypanosoma cruzi cause Chagas disease and transmitted by kissing bug. They call it kissing bug because this bug, Tryptomania, will go around the mouth and bite the person around the mouth. That's why they call it kissing bug. And then Chagas disease, as I said, the problem is heart, but again, affects the nervous system too. But the main thing, he affects the heart, and the person has heart problems. And this is a little bit milder, that medications and other things can maybe improve the life of a person with a Trypanosoma cruzi. Has it been reported in the United States? Yes, southern states of the United States, people who live in southern states like Texas, Arizona, when they have a shed and that shed has not been touched, there is a lot of stuff in there, and they go into the shed. These are the reports they get from CDC. They open up the shed and they go in there after what, 2 years, 3 years, open up something, the fly, the kissing bug, sorry about that, the kissing bug will bite them, and then so of course they come up with it. So it has been reported from the United States. Not very common, not very often. Again, it's more common in South and Central America. Leishmania has not been found in the United States recently, unless people migrated. And then liver and spleen is called visceral leishmaniasis. Liver and spleen becomes large, huge, hepatomegaly. And then cutaneous leishmaniasis. And there is one other type of leishmaniasis. I did not list them here. So these two I'm listing only for you guys. So cutaneous and transmitted by sandfly. Here is a person, they did autopsy on him. Look at the spleen, it's huge. Okay, and liver is kind of also here, huge as well. So that's the person, they had Leishmania. And the people you see, pictures you might see from Africa, that you see that person is so skinny, how come they have a big belly? Okay, what have they been eating? No, they have not been eating anything for days. But because they have leishmania that causes, and that's all liver or spleen. Liver becomes huge, spleen becomes huge, and that's what they have. They have visceral leishmaniasis. They are different. This man has had cutaneous leishmaniasis with medication and some plastic surgery. He was able to go back to normal life. There was, of course, there were scars on his tissue, on his face, after medications and surgery.